welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you parenting styles and parenting techniques that I don't necessarily subscribe to. And I'm also going to share with you a few that I do subscribe to as well. Basically, I was reading an article the other day about different parenting techniques, and some of them I hadn't even heard about until I read that article. But I just find it fascinating how we all do things differently, and I thought it might make an interesting video to share with you what I take from certain parenting techniques and what I leave alone and perhaps don't agree with. And I also thought in this video I'd share with you a few parenting styles that I feel that maybe I do differently than the majority. And yeah, I hope you really like this video. I thought I'd do like a nice chilled sit down for you guys. I'm actually gonna put my tea down because I know whenever I film videos holding my tea, it makes people very nervous. So I will put that down. But yeah, if you're new to my channel, I am a mum of 3 boys. I have a nearly 10-year-old son, a 7-year-old son, and a 4-year-old son as well. So I am by no means at the end of like the parenting race, so I can't say that like I've done a good job. I don't think you can say that till they're grown up. But I have been parenting for 10 years, and I think in the past 10 years, I've massively grown in confidence when it comes to parenting and my choices as a mother. And things have also changed a lot in that time. But anyway, with all that said, if you're new to my channel, I would love you to consider subscribing. I was looking at my stats the other day, and it showed that only, like out of all the people that watch my videos, only 45% of you guys actually subscribe to me. So 55% of viewers are not subscribed to the channel. So if you've been a long time watcher, but you're not subscribed, it would mean the world to me if you decided to press the red button. I know it's not all about numbers, but it would be lovely. It'd be your like good deed for the day. But anyway, let's get into the video. So first off, I'm gonna share with you a few parenting styles that maybe I do a little bit differently. And the first one is that I let my kids be messy. That comes up a lot in the comment section of my day in the life videos. Just things like, how can you be so calm with them when they're painting? And it also comes up in real life. If we ever have people over for play dates and I get the Play-Doh out or the kinetic sand out, or, you know, the sand and water table out, parents will say, oh, you know, play with that here because you're not allowed Play-Doh at home, or, oh my gosh, you've got kinetic sand, just like things like that. But for me, like sensory play is so very important for our children. And honestly, sometimes I do it for an easy life. If an activity keeps my kids busy for like 15 to 20 minutes, that is a huge win for me, because my 3 boys, they're so very boisterous. They're constantly on the move. If I can ever get them to like sit and play with something, not only are they learning, but I can maybe like make dinner. And also whenever there is messy play, it actually only takes like 10 minutes to tidy up. Even if it's kinetic sand, all it is like a vacuum and a quick wipe. Like it's never, like my kids have never like painted on the walls or something like that. So, but generally, I'm pretty chill with the mess. I also wanted to touch upon nap times in this video. With my first son, who was born nearly 10 years ago, when he was born, Gina Ford and her routine was very much the thing at the time. So I too bought the book, read the routine, and tried to implement it. And while I really liked some of her like ideas, and I loved seeing how much sleep they actually need during a day, I found it very difficult to stick to and have some kind of a life at the same time. And the thing is with nap times, they do end. I remember sticking to this strict routine, and then as soon as Fraser hit 3 years old, he just stopped napping completely. And I remember thinking like, why did I do that to myself? Like I put myself through, you know, like listening outside his door and like, you know, a huge amount of time like laying him in the cot back and forth all the time, when actually he just stops napping when he's 3 years old. So with the other 2 boys, I was way more relaxed. I really liked a book called The Sensational Sleep Plan. I'll link it down below. It gives you like a guide of maybe when your child should sleep and like the best sleep practices and stuff. But even if your child is sleeping in the buggy or the car or whatever you're doing, like as long as they're getting enough sleep overall, that's the main thing. And they do give up naps. So I was actually, with boy number 2 and 3, I was way more chilled out about sleep times. And the next one that I do is I don't lie to my children, and that can be quite difficult at times, but my mum it was always very truthful with me. I felt like I could go to her and ask literally anything and she would be completely open and honest with me. And I think that that was actually really nice, because even now I would go to her if I had a problem, and I want the boys to feel like that with me. Because the thing is, if you sort of like skirt around certain things, then they might think, oh well, I won't ask mum when they have a real problem in the future, because they might think that you're gonna like maybe like bend the truth a little bit. So recently we actually had a discussion with Fraser about Santa. He just kept asking questions about it, and at the end of it I just thought, you know, I just have to be completely truthful, and whenever anything else comes up of that nature or anything, I will be truthful. I'll obviously say it in a way that is like child friendly, but yeah, I think that's really important, but also can be very difficult. The next thing that I might do slightly differently is I don't make my children eat everything on their plate every single night. If I feel like they've had enough dinner and they've tried every different thing on their plate, even if there's something that they don't want to try, if they've had a polite bite of it and overall they've eaten enough, I don't make them completely clean their plate. And that is not because I want to waste food. It's because I read this study about something that was done at a university on the clean plate policy, and it showed that sometimes when you make children eat everything on their plate, it can actually make them lose their ability to understand their like hunger cues. So they can almost stop recognizing when they're full. It's just in their head that they need to completely clean their plate, and then they can take that into adulthood and it can cause like overeating. So obviously we don't want that. But yeah, as long as I feel like they've probably, you know, they've had enough, then I don't make them clean everything on their plate. Another thing that I do is I try not to say no to my children, and that doesn't mean that I let them do whatever they want. I mean that I rephrase the way I'm saying no, so that when I do actually need to use that word, it's respected and it's powerful. So say if a child is getting into a cupboard, I would maybe like distract them or be like, come and play with this, or like there's ways that you can say you're not allowed to do that without saying the words no. So maybe you could just explain, you know, we're not going to play with that because it's dangerous, or, you know, I try to do things that way and then limit the amount of times that I actually say no. And something else that I never had is I never had reins for my children, and that's probably because all of my kids are nearly 3 years apart. So by the time I had a new baby, the 3-year-old I felt should be able to hold my hand, to hold the buggy, to be on the buggy board and sort of learn not to just run off and run away. I think it would be different if I had like 2 children under the age of 2. Maybe you would need reins then for like safety and security. But I personally never had reins for the boys. Now onto the parenting techniques, and the first one I'm not sure that I agree with, especially if taken to the extreme, is free range parenting. So you may have heard about this one before. Free range parenting is encouraging your kids to do what they like with no rules or boundaries and minimal supervision. So the idea behind free range parenting is that they become extremely independent and self-reliant, and obviously that is a very good thing to come from free range parenting. But a few of the stories I've read make me think this is just unsafe sometimes. There was a woman who famously put her 9-year-old son on the New York subway and told him that he needed to find his way home. So if anyone's ever been to New York, you will have seen that their subway system is like insanely complicated, and I would actually be scared trying to find my way around New York, let alone a 9-year-old child. So I thought that was like taking it too far. And there's also been other cases where free range parents let their like 5 and 7-year-old walk home over a mile from the park, and actually in that case police did get involved, and I think like prosecuted the parents for just actually being neglectful. So if it's like I can see the benefits to it, and I do agree that, you know, parenting nowadays it's so different. Like when me and my sister were kids, we used to take our allowance, walk to the corner store, spend our allowance, walk home all on our own without my mom or anything. And that was fine back then. Whereas nowadays, I wouldn't dream of just sending the boys off with their allowance to the shops. And maybe that's because there's more stories out there and like, you know, horror stories and everything. So I guess in that way, kids are becoming more mollycoddled. But I think free range, there's gotta be like limits. The next parenting technique that wouldn't work for me and that I'm not sure I agree with is unschooling your children. So unschooling is actually a legal thing. It falls under homeschooling, so it is allowed, like you can do this as a parent, which seems crazy to me because unschooling is not following any curriculum, letting your children do what they like, and in a nice way, I guess they can like do whatever they're curious about, whatever interests them. So say my son Caleb, I'm sure he would do gymnastics all day long. My son Fraser, he would play football all day long because that would be what interests them. Or maybe some of them would like cook or bake, or, you know, it's all like what the child is interested in. The only thing that I was like, oh, like I watched a video on YouTube about like an unschooling family, and I think the oldest boy was like 11 years old and he couldn't really read, he couldn't do simple multiplication. And then I thought, oh, I don't know if that is right, because if they then like have to go and get a job when they're older and they're no longer at home with their parents, it's kind of not the real world. Like you probably do need the ability to read and write and to get a job. So I felt like, oh, then you might actually be taking a few opportunities away from them if you just completely unschool them. So I get the benefits, but I think like homeschooling would be a much better option because, you know, they're learning reading, writing, maths and everything, and probably have a bit more time for like what they're curious in. But to just completely unschool your child, I was like, oh, you know, they probably do need some of the basic things from school. The next parenting technique that I wanted to talk about is helicopter parenting. And I've joked on this channel that I'm a helicopter parent if I'm ever being overprotective of the kids, but in actual fact, I'm not. Helicopter parenting is exactly as it sounds. It's when you hover over your children, and it's normally applied to parents of teenagers. So it's when a parent is taking responsibility for their teenagers' successes and failures and just getting really involved in their life. So why I see that why people would want to be overprotective of their teenager. They do also need to struggle. Like the struggle is good for them. And I remember growing up, I used to hate my mom when she would make me, she was always really keen to make me and my sister independent because she was like single mother at a very young age. And if I ever needed a dentist appointment, a haircut, wanted to apply for a part-time job, anything like that, she was like, you need to do it yourself, you need to call. And I used to be like, Mom, could you just call for me and book my haircut? And she'd be like, nope. And there was just so many things she'd be like, nope. And then, you know, so, like she'd like make me and my sister make dinner different nights, and like, she was very much about making us independent, and that's actually been so good for us. And there's a really lovely analogy about a butterfly. I don't know if you guys have heard it before, but I'll tell you if you haven't, because I love like thinking about it. But that is, you know, when you, like a little caterpillar goes into the cocoon and then it like comes out of the cocoon. There is a story of a butterfly breaking out of a cocoon, and a little boy sees it happening and he helps the butterfly out and like waits for it to fly off. But the struggle of getting out of the cocoon is actually what gives the butterfly like the blood in its wings that it needs. So the struggle of getting out actually makes the butterfly strong and then able to fly. So obviously this little boy helps the butterfly out, and then that's it. It dies because it hasn't, like, it's not strong. So sometimes I think about that, how like you don't want anything bad to happen to your kids, but it's also so important for those life experiences. The next parenting technique that I wanted to share with you is the one that I identify with the most, and I think if I had to be like a parenting technique, I would probably be this one, and it is a lighthouse parent. I'd actually never heard that term until I was reading about all the various different techniques, but a lighthouse parent is visible from the shoreline as a stable light or beacon, and they set expectations and boundaries boundaries, but only intervene when necessary. So they give the child the space to make mistakes and learn for themselves, but then obviously get involved if they're needed. And I was like, yes, like I think that I'm that. And I'll link the article down below because it was really interesting to see like what a lighthouse parent is. And as I was reading it, I was like, I actually think that would be my parenting style. Like if we go to the park or the soft play, I would always like set up at like a table and like a camp and like kind of sit back, watch them play. And then even if there's like an altercation in the soft play, then I would like sort of see how they react to it before I just go like running in. So I don't know, I was like, I think that's more me. The next one that I do agree with, and I was actually surprised how much I was like this, is attachment parenting. Before I had children, I would have said to you, I would not baby wear. I would probably, I don't know if I would breastfeed. I don't know. I didn't really think about that sort of style of parenting. But as soon as I became a mother, I was like more earth mother than I thought. I did extended breastfeeding with all of my children. I loved baby wearing, co-sleeping. Yeah, so attachment parenting is focusing on nurturing the connection between a parent and a child. And a lot of the things that attachment parents do just felt right when I became a mother, like letting them in my bed if they wanted to sleep in my bed, letting them breastfeed for longer than a year if that's what they wanted to do, baby wearing, just really cut down on the crying. So I was all for baby wearing, and positive discipline also just comes naturally to me. So I also really like that style of parenting, but I know it's not for everyone. Next parenting technique that I wanted to share with you is called elimination communication. And this one is not even that I don't agree with it. I just don't know how you could do this. So elimination communication is a method used by parents who go nappy free from birth. So rather than using nappies, they just notice cues from their child, like if they need a wee or a poo. So they say that they can see what things their child does before they do that, and they can stop them and put them on a potty or whatever you do with a newborn who needs to go to the toilet. So it just seems crazy and very controversial because, well, it's very messy, but also a lot of doctors don't really think it's a good idea to do potty training that early. So let me know if you guys have heard of this. I think it would have also been impossible for working mothers, like with my first and second, you know, I had to go back to work. So although you might recognize the cues that they do before they need the toilet, like would everyone, like would the dad, would the nan, like you couldn't put them into nursery. So I just thought that one was crazy. Obviously it would make potty training a lot easier, but I just think you'd make your life really hard and messy in the early days. And the last two parenting techniques that I wanted to touch upon is first, the permissive parent. This is just when you're your child's like best friend. You see your child as an equal and you don't set that many rules or boundaries. Obviously, it's probably nice that you're friends with your kid, but ultimately they need a parent. And studies have shown that children need clear boundaries to actually feel safe. So it could be a dangerous place to be. And then the last one, which is one you may have heard of in the past, is the tiger mom. Tiger parents are just the type of parents that will only accept straight A's from their children. They want their child to be very academic and they will get very involved. And obviously, I want to help my kids in any way that I can academically, but equally, if they didn't want to go to university one day, or if they wanted to be an electrician over being a doctor or whatever it is, I just want my children to be happy when they grow up and to do something that they really love. So if that I don't know what they're going to be like, but if they don't lend themselves to like the academic thing naturally, I don't see why you should push and force it. But yeah, anyway, that is everything that I wanted to talk about today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's a slightly different one from me. And as I've sat here looking in the viewfinder, I feel like I look like a professor, but this is actually a cute little like vest dress, but when I'm sat like this, I think it actually looks quite formal. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.